how to configure a router or router configuration. So before we start learning how to configure a router, let's start by looking at the requirements. So what do you need for you to configure this particular router? So first you need the router itself. You need an Ethernet cable and the computer. Now on the Ethernet cable, it should be well crimped and terminated, and you can use the color code of A, that is T568A or T568B. So you can use either of or one of the color coding or both the color coding. So after you've prepared your Ethernet cable, you've crimped it well, so you plug it. First, before you plug it, you should connect the router to the power. Then you switch it on, or you put it on. Also, your computer should be on. So when these gadgets are on, so you plug in the Ethernet cable, both on the Ethernet port of the computer and the Ethernet port of the router. Then now that will be the first step. Now the second step now here is to set the IP address. Now for this case, you can either set the IP address manually or do this configuration of the IP address automatically. But for this case, let's allocate the IP address to this particular computer automatically, so that it can obtain the IP from the DHCP server. So let's see how to connect or how to assign this particular machine the IP address automatically. So first step, you go to settings. From there it's network and internet, and then you select the Ethernet, and then Ethernet, and then change adapter options. Then I will right click on my Ethernet, change adapter options, right click on my Ethernet, and then properties. Now from here is Internet Protocol version 4 properties. So on my case, the IP is already automatically configured. As you can see, obtain an IP address automatically, obtain DNS server. Yes, it's already automatically configured. But if you want to assign or configure the IP address manually, you'll basically use here, you'll click use the following IP address. Then you can input or type the IP address depending on how you come up with your IP or a unique number. But for this, or a unique IP, but for this case, or a unique address. But for this case, let's enable it automatically. So you obtain an IP address automatically. Then here obtain, you also activate under obtain DNS server automatically. Then you press OK. So my IP address is automatically configured, meaning the server will produce or will provide the address to this particular computer. So the third step, we now check the IP address using the CMD or the command prompt. So let's open the command prompt, and then we type now to check the IP address, the default gateway mask, the subnet mask, and whether to know this IP address has been assigned automatically or manually in this particular computer. You use the command ipconfig. Now after using this command ipconfig, as you can see, we have the version 6, version 4 here. We have the subnet mask and the default gateway mask. So now this address, the default gateway mask address, now this is the router's address. So this 192.168, this is my router's address. So I copy paste that address, and then I open any browser. It can be the Chrome, the Edge, any browser. You open that browser. So let's wait. You open the browser and then you copy paste or you paste that address. So the default gateway mask, it is the address of the router, and that is the address that I'm going to paste on my browser, the default gateway. So this is the address, the router's address, and it is the address that I am going to, or it is the address that I'm going to paste on my browser. So as you can see, this all address, both version 6, version 4, have what they were assigned by the server. They were assigned by the server. Now my browser is on, so I paste that address, and then you press enter. So this is now my router. So my router is Tender, and the name of my router is Tender. So you will be required to input the username and the password. So before we input the username and the password, let's learn what is here. So this is point-to-point connection. Then we have the dynamic, in case we are using the automatically assigned IP. We also have the static. This is the manually assigning of the IP address. Now the username and the password. So the username, what do we put in as our username? So let's use any, let's type MT as my username. Password, I maintain MT. So the Wi-Fi name, it can remain. Let's see the password: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and then okay. So after inputting that, as you can see, now we are good to go. So we can see the status of my router. We can start from the status. This is just like the dashboard of what my router entails, and I as a user can change anything, can change any configuration, can allow anything. So let's see the things that are done or this user can do in this router. So under the status, as you can see the internet connection status here, devices, have the router and the internet. So for this case I don't have the internet, but I have just connected the router to the computer. Internet settings, let's see what is in internet settings. So under internet settings we have connection type, point to point, by the use of the Ethernet cable. So for this case we are using a point to point, so it has been connected by the Ethernet cable, both from this device, the computer and the router. The